Okay, this presentation will provide an update on the Biteback program since 2018 until now. Data displayed on the following slides have been collected through hard copy maps supplied by land managers and wild dog activity data recorded through the Wild Dog Scan app, which includes data supplied by land managers and the professional trappers. Most of the data is focused on inside fence properties, as this is where we're trying to remove wild dogs from. But I've also included some north fence information or wild dog activity information in some of the maps to show what sections of the region are reporting the most activity. I haven't included any slides about this year's aerial baiting program because it only happened last week for the one that we run. I will say that we did have a technical issue which resulted in one of the flights being cancelled. Despite this, we managed to distribute around 18,500 baits across 25 properties. The flights were based on recently reported wild dog activity and known vectors used by wild dogs to travel large distances. Aerial baiting is a complementary program and is not a substitute for mandatory ground baiting requirements. Now, I always like to start with this map when I'm talking about wild dog activity, because this map shows reported wild dog activity in the 2018-2019 financial year. And it's a bit of a reminder of how far we have actually come with reducing wild dog activity and impacts. What this map doesn't show is that this wild dog activity data was supplied from only 57% of properties inside the fence within the region, meaning that the wild dog activity and impacts were likely much higher than what were reported. Bear in mind too that this data was collected prior to the commencement of the dog fence project, when parts of the dog fence were, in poor condition. It was also during drought conditions where a large number of wild dogs were putting pressure on the fence, trying to head south for better areas, where more water and more food was available. At that stage, the sheep industry was in a bit of trouble and wild dog impacts were being reported further south than ever before. Now, compared that to this map, which shows reported wild dog activity in the 2022-2023 financial year, you can see how much a coordinated effort has significantly reduced wild dog activity and impacts. But we're not out of the woods yet. Much the same as the previous map, this data was supplied from only 37% of properties within the region inside the fence, meaning once again, it's probably only telling us part of the picture. Okay, so these next few slides show data collected from properties inside the dog fence, and I won't dwell on this data too much, but I just wanted to show that reported stock loss has significantly reduced over the years, with only 23 stock reported as killed by wild dogs in the past 6 months. This doesn't include changes in stocking rates, changes in land use, and a reduction in the number of properties actually reporting. Now, this graph shows a comparison between wild dogs controlled by properties compared with those controlled by professional trappers. I've included this graph because I wanted to emphasise the amount of hard work land managers have put into controlling wild dogs over the years, which I think is sometimes a bit overlooked. I can only imagine the level of wild dog impacts south of the fence or properties would have been experiencing if they hadn't done the control for many, many years. I also want to acknowledge the hard work and effort of the PIRSA managed professional trapper program. They've removed a large amount of breeding age dogs who have been avoiding control for many, many years. Overall, it's fantastic to see the total amount of wild dogs controlled has reduced significantly, but the increase in wild dogs controlled in the past 6 months shows numbers are beginning to increase again. When I look at this graph, it's a little bit concerning to me to see quite a large reduction in control effort by properties since the Professional Trapper program began. And I really hope it's because of reduced dog activity and not complacency on the part of the properties who are leaving all the wild dog control effort to the professionals. Now, this graph shows the number of live dog sightings inside the dog fence. Similar to the last graph, the upward trend over the past 12 months in live wild dog activity and actual dogs being seen inside the dog fence is a strong indication that we have not solved the wild dog problem yet. And we really need to, keep our finger on the pulse and keep working hard to try to bring those numbers down to near eradication levels. Now, as I mentioned before, the Biteback program is reliant on wild dog activity information being shared from landholders. This information is used to determine where aerial baiting needs to occur, where extra injection services need to be coordinated, and where extra training is required, and more recently, where professional trappers need to be deployed to help landholders out. As you've seen in the previous slides, the data is also used to look at wild dog trends over time and to determine if the program is making a difference. Even a blank map showing no wild dog activity or a brief email explaining that you haven't observed any wild dog activity on your property is still valuable information that we need to piece together the picture to see what's going on. What's concerning about this graph is the decline in the number of properties that are actually reporting over the past few years. And we hope it's because there's minimal wild dog activity and it's not seen as a priority. We strongly encourage landholders to continue to report, especially through the Wild Dog Scan app, as the data that's collected through Wild Dog Scan is much more beneficial to the property in determining when and where to implement extra control measures on the property. We will continue to send out hard copy maps every 6 months for a few more years to ensure everyone has ample opportunity to share information with us. Now, finally, I wanted to touch on the amount of baiting occurring inside the fence compared to how much that should be happening. The blue line at the top of this graph shows how many baits should be distributed each baiting period. And the green column shows the actual amount of baits going out within that same season. So you can see there's been a bit of a downward trend there. And when you look at the orange line on that graph as well, it's quite alarming to think that less than 50% of properties inside the fence are actually baiting at all at the moment. The intent of the wild dog policy is to ensure land managers are sharing the responsibility for wild dog control by baiting at a landscape scale. If some properties are baiting and others are not, there's a strong chance that wild dogs will persist and travel through the environment without coming into contact with a bait. Now, this map shows which areas are baiting enough, which is in the green, which areas are baiting at lower than the required levels in the orange yellow colour, and which areas are not baiting at all, which is in the red. Now, I've also superimposed the wild dog activity data for the past 12 months over the top to show the relation between baiting effort and wild dog activity. It is expected that wild dog compliance will focus on areas of high wild dog impacts and activity where properties are not baiting, which is the red areas, particularly when their neighbours are doing everything they can to control wild dogs. Compliance actions and follow-up with non-baiting properties will be a priority of the board going forward. It isn't fair that some properties bait and their effort is wasted when neighbours are not baiting. The only effective management strategy in integrated control at a landscape scale is at a landscape scale. Sorry. Right, now down to questions. Anybody, please? Peter, I'll just allow your mic. You'll have to press on your mic button at the top to be able to speak. Yeah, Peter, we can't hear you.
Yeah, no, I didn't put my hand up. I've got no
Oh,
questions.
no, sorry.
It's all interesting.
Sorry, not Peter Litchfield. Sorry, I should have said Peter Coburn. Anybody? Someone must have a question about dog control or information. Charlie's got a question.
Chris, first of all, just make sure everyone knows that as of Tuesday this week, I have started in the Senior Biosecurity Project Officer role that Chris has mentioned. So we certainly will be having conversations with those properties in those non-compliant areas where they haven't been meeting their baiting requirements. But Chris, I thought I'd just ask if people can't make it to one of your planned injection days, what should they do?
Well, of course, they can get in touch with me. Sorry, we got a bit of feedback there, Charlie. Yeah, so any landholders that can't make it to the coordinated injection services can get in touch with me. And what we found over the years is if one property needs baits and can't make it, there's probably a few of their neighbours that need baits and can't make it as well. So provided we can get, at least a few properties together, we can do top-up injection services throughout the year, to help everybody out. We also send out the injection service invites at least 2 months before the set dates for the injection services. That's to allow for, if there's any group members that can't make it, to get in contact with us. And if there's enough people in a group that can't make it on the day, we can look at rescheduling it to a time when more people are available to come along. The other alternative, I guess, is a lot of our groups in the region have been working together for a lot of years, and can actually, if people can't make it on the day, they can ask their neighbours to bring meat along on their behalf, or can get a neighbour to even source the meat for them, which happens sometimes. A lot of our groups now work they have a coordinated effort. So a few members of the group will go and coordinate and get the meat for everybody in that group. And that allows, a lot more efficient injection services as well if one or two or several people can't make it on the day. I'll just allow your mic. It's Rory, isn't it? You'll have to hit the mic button at the top, mate. Yep.
Yeah, you got me?
Yep.
Yeah, Rory here from Frome Downs. So when you had that injection service, was it in March?
Yep.
Down
March.
this way.
Yep.
We were mustering at the time. It just it wasn't going to work for me. I probably should have sent an email, but we were proper busy. So I did bait after we mustered, just with our own baits. Just me being on Frome myself, it's just it's impossible to be able to go and source meat and get it injected and be able to put that out as one person on a property of this scale.
Yep.
So like synthetic baits are probably my best friend.
Yep.
But yeah, like we've got the dog bait injection services, but where do we also go, to be able to get the synthetic baits and
okay, so
talk to you about it.
Sure. We keep a stock of manufactured baits at our workshop in Port Augusta. And if you order more than what we have in stock, they take about 6 days to get to us. And once we've done all the approval forms and everything, we can actually either you could collect them from Port Augusta if you're down in Port Augusta from our workshop, or we could put them on a transport at your cost and get them out to your property for you. Those baits we also sell on to landholders at a subsidised price. So they're cheaper than what we actually buy them from the processors.
Yeah. And then just one more you sent out the maps. Like I've only been on Chrome here for 6 months, so in the new year we would have got a new map where you want us to put, dog sightings and stuff onto.
Yep.
Is it now easier just to go across to the dog scan app and just use that?
Absolutely. The benefits of using the Wild Dog Scan app is that you have ownership of that data. And the whole concept of using that as a reporting tool is that over time you might see some trends on certain parts of your property and certain times of the year where you're going to see dog activity, or it's more likely that you'll see dog activity. And you can then be proactive with your control and preempt those issues and go out there and bait before those issues become a problem. The maps themselves are fantastic data for looking at trends and for looking at requirements for the program and what we need to do to actually get the tools to the landholders when they need it. But unfortunately, by the time those maps come back, that data is already 6 months out of date. So it's not that beneficial for you guys, but it is still valuable data. So I would certainly encourage people to use Wild Dog Scan instead of the hard copy maps. But if you're not confident using Wild Dog Scan, then use the map instead, because that data is still really valuable and we still need that data. We send those maps out once every 6 months. So it's usually in January and July. And when the new map turns up, it'll have a self-addressed envelope in with the map. And that's what you use to return your previous map back to us. And then use the new map for the next 6-month period.
Right, thank you. I'll get back to you in the next few days about all this other stuff. But yeah,
no worries. That'd be great, Rory. Thanks.